What's trending? Say category with the stories trending around the world. Charity begins at home. Is that what it's going to look like?
Oh my goodness.
Fuel.
Yes, so we're talking about fuel. It's lovely to see you ladies. I see you got the green.
Yeah, the green, different shades.
Except for Boston, it's all right.
Here we go. The odd man out. Unfortunately, I'm a man as well. The odd man out.
You have to stand out.
Unfortunately.
You have to stand out.
The odd man out.
We are standing for patriotism. What are you standing
The odd man in the
for?
middle
Red
of
for
the
danger
ladies.
during this petrol strike.
This one thing is a whole lot of
Fuel
danger.
tank is
It's danger
red.
out there.
All right, then let us kick off what's trending today. Good morning to our viewers watching from all over the world. Starting here in Nigeria, of course, the People's Democratic Party, a pan-Yoruba social, cultural and political organization, Afenifere, the Nigerian Labour Congress, the Trade Union Congress, and some other civil society organizations yesterday expressed outrage at the recent hike in petrol prices, lamenting that the federal government is inflicting further hardship on Nigerians. PDP rejected what it described as the punishing increase in the pump price of premium motor spirit to over 1,000 naira per litre in various parts of the country. The opposition party stressed that it was a brutal assault on the sensibility and well-being of Nigerians by the current administration. Afenifere, on the other hand, called on the federal government to immediately order the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited to reverse the price increase. Meanwhile, the National Association of Nigerian Students has denied organizing a protest against the petrol price increase. On Wednesday, a statement purportedly from the Students Association announcing a major shutdown of all cities across the country over the increase in petrol prices went viral. The statement said the group would protest in the cities across the country from September 15th this year. In a statement by the association's Senate President Akinteye Babatunde, NAN says the claims do not reflect the position or intentions of the organization. It reads in part, the leadership of NAND has been made aware of rumors and misinformation circulating across various platforms, suggesting that NAND is planning a massive shutdown of major cities across the country. We wish to categorically state that NAND has not announced or endorsed any such protest, and these reports are entirely baseless and do not reflect the position or intentions of our organizations. NAND further went ahead to say that disrupting the peace of the nation, it's rather than disrupting the peace of the nation, it is committed to peaceful advocacy and constructive engagement with relevant stakeholders. You know, when I saw that letter on social media yesterday, I was like, no, we don't need another strike, because I can imagine with all the queues already and then a planned nationwide strike, that would just not be the best thing. But thankfully, by the time I woke up this morning, we're seeing this statement coming in saying, no, that's not the plan. But still, you can just tell from PDP to TLC to NUC to Afenifere to the CSOs, nobody is happy with this petrol increase. Starts with you, Ayo.
All right, no one is happy with this petrol increase. It's very obvious. Let me start with the NAN story. And I hear you that if a strike will further make the situation worse. But are we not in a strike? Is there no strike action already? Who is able to go to work? People who should be at work are on the fuel queue and petrol queues. Who is able to go to work? People who are meant to be at work are standing at bus stops. There are no buses to convey them to work because the buses that should be on the roads are on the fuel queues. Are we not on strike? Can students afford to go to school currently? So I understand the sentiments that they'd rather go constructive dialogue. But the truth is that sometimes the government pushes, and that's what I believe PDP had said, that you push the people to the wall. You provoke the people into wanting. Of course, we're not asking for any violent response or reaction. But what I'm saying is that when people get upset, that was what was demonstrated during the End Bad Governance and End Hunger protests. And what we had said, a lot of people had said, was that let the government put in measures to ensure that we don't see this happen again, nor tensions further escalate. What do we see a few weeks down the line? An increase in fuel prices. How does this correlate? People say they are hungry. People say that there's no money in the land. Then you go further. They came out to protest peacefully, largely, aside from places where it was hijacked. And then the next thing you're doing, for reasons best known to you, saying that they want to reflect the market value of fuel price, increase prices. That's not the challenge. As these groups have said, the main challenge is that the government hasn't done a lot to cushion the effect on the people. So we keep talking about sacrifices, but the Nigerian people are the ones who keep sacrificing. Don't we have a government? And the responsibility of government is to look out for the interest of the people. So yes, we hear all the economics and calculations around remove fuel subsidy, the benefits. That is true. We agree with that. But what we are also calling for is that the government also takes action. Yeah. And that's why I support the calls by these groups. I don't know if we're going to reverse the price. We heard what the EVP said. I think we should all face reality that this is the new price going forward. But what is the government doing to ensure that life is a bit better and our take-home pay can stretch for Nigerians? I don't know. It's just multiple issues, problems. It's a lot.
Or you just buy petrol and walk home, because I don't know if the price can take you home, because it can't take you home. Yeah. You just buy the fuel and just carry it along and just walk home, because you need the petrol to move from one place to the other. But again, my heart with the kids who will be resuming schools at the primary, secondary, whatever level on Monday. And that's where my heart is bleeding already. I don't know how schools are going to deal with this, how parents will have to deal with this, whether you taking your kids to school by yourself, driving them, or the madam is the one driving them, or the house will help, or whatever, and how school buses will cope with the cost that will be needed to pick every kid from home and drop them back at home twice a day, and you do that 5 days a week. I'm just trying to see how much this will bring to bear on how much schools will be demanding from parents starting from this month in terms of what is what you call the school bus a transportation fee will be. And you have kids here. We're a very large country. Folks have many number of kids, and they've got to go to schools. Some kids go to school very far from home, and you can't just ask them to change school within 24 hours. So they've got to go by public transportation, which is all gone all the way all the way here. So next week is going to be a real testing time. Whatever NANS, whatever folks are talking about, the government needs to do something, and very quickly come up with something, a rabbit out of the hat, in a manner of speaking. To decelerate things and bring soccer in. And you'll have, because when kids go to school, parents get a bit more choked. You have to prepare food, meals for them in the morning, afternoon, in the evening. They've got to take lessons when they get back home. The weather is getting a bit hot, so they've got to study and rest. And kids would have to deal with this and go back to school. If school premises get hot, will they have ceiling fan? Will schools be able to power petrol for the generators for the schools? So things are going to get a little bit more choky from next week when the school's in, and that's going to be an issue.
Very quickly, yesterday on Newsday, we had the opportunity of interviewing Mr. Benson Opal, who is the head of information for NLC. And on speaking about this conversation about how he says they had a deal with the president that if they accepted the 70,000 minimum wage, that the fuel price would not go up. And then when we asked him, he said, okay, so this deal that you have, do you have a signed agreement? Can you bring it out so that we can question it? And he said, no, there was no signed agreement. It was just, we went there in good faith, and we just hoped that everybody was at the negotiating table in good faith. Now, I'm bringing this up because of NANS saying that they want constructive engagement. And we saw the extent, the length and breadth that NLC went to even get that 70,000 that a lot of people were discouraged by. And still the deal was reneged on. So NANS coming to say, constructive engagement and so forth, it clearly doesn't work. So, people should be allowed to exercise their democratic rights in whatever way they need to vent out the frustration that we're all feeling. Everybody at this table has felt it. I would rather let us have
solutions than frustration.
However, in terms of...
Can we have some solutions on the table?
Some solutions on the table.
Life's already crushed enough. So having more frustration being vented crushes everybody the more. So those who were elected or appointed are being paid with taxpayers' money to bring solutions to the table should just get the job done.
Well, speaking about solutions, the next story might appeal to that a bit, and I can't wait to hear your comments. The chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy, Taiwo Oyedele, says his committee has advised the federal government to remove taxes on food, public transportation, house rent, and other necessities critical to Nigerians' well-being. Oyedele also added that the committee has recommended exempting small businesses from tax payments, including withholding taxes and company income tax, adding that their employees have also been exempted from personal income tax. He explained that businesses regarded as small businesses have been reviewed as those with 50 million annual turnover or less. He also disclosed plans to introduce a 2.5% increase in tax from 7.5% to 10% by 2025. Now, this story first came out, when the story came out, that last line was actually the headline and what went around. And I remember someone from the committee had reached out to say, no, we are going to increase in 2025, but that should not be the focus. The focus should be what we've told the federal government to take off taxes on these necessities. But actually, I want to start with Bosin, because you're the businessman here. Do you think that this in itself is going to affect the current living situation among Nigerians? You have
the bulk of Nigerians living at the bottom of the pyramid. They don't own any businesses, or whether it's 50 million or 5 million. They just making money with the left hand and using the right hand to put it in their mouth. So they're just living by the day, one day at a time. So taxes which are legally needs to go to the government has to go to the government. But these folks pay a lot of illegal taxes around the bottom of the pyramid that you're not really sure where these taxes or tariffs, whatever go. They live by the day and die by the day. And that is what majority of Nigerians are. So that is where you have the bulk of the 200 million plus of us. And those of us who are a few steps above the ladder also have to deal with these folks down the list. So they support that pyramid in a manner of speaking. They are the one getting crunched by the rest of the weight of us who are at the top, or all the way to the top. So in a manner of speaking, and this Tawo Udele and his team have done a fantastic job. However, we need to see how to increase productivity. And that's my final line. Productivity. There's no amount of rejigging taxes, tax holidays, tax subsidies, if every Nigerian male and female, able and not so able, are not productive enough. Our productivity quotient, our national productivity in Naira terms on a daily basis average, is very low in Naira terms. If you convert it to dollar, it goes just to cents. Until we can return to productivity across key sectors that provide decent jobs. We're talking about the textiles and garments coming back big stream. We're talking about agriculture and agro-allied. These are two key sectors, real estate, and not the fanciful ones we're building in Lagos, by the way, with and Abuja. We're talking about real estate that can take almost 1 million people into employment right away. That will spur on the artisans, cement, those who do the masons and the rest. It will catalyze your painting industry, your carpentry, everybody that needs to get back to real job and create value and money in the pocket and a sense of living and reduce criminal enterprise. Until we can fix that, we're still just thinking that people will be naturally paid, taxes will naturally come out, and that will help the government to do what it needs to do. But until we find that way to take millions back into what we call sustainable employment through productivity, we're still scratching the surface. How we find that missing key is what I'm looking for.
Yeah. I'd like you ladies to comment, but very quickly, the co-chair of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Bill Gates, who is in Nigeria, actually expressed concern over Nigeria's low tax collection, stating that it poses a significant challenge to financing critical sectors such as health and education. He said this at a Pan-African Youth Dialogue in Nutrition in Abuja on Tuesday, emphasizing the need for effective tax collection to ensure adequate funding for essential public services. So now we're having someone saying we're going to take tax off certain things, and we have Bill Gates saying that we're not even collecting enough tax. Ayo.
So I think to clarify that, because Mr. Oyedele had to come out to release a statement, because there were two narratives that were not totally true. Them coming together then made a whole truth, which is number one, some people carry the fact that, he wants to increase by 2.5% to 10%, and another said, he wants to cut down taxes. But it's best to put it in context. What he wants to do, having I highlighted some of the areas where most Nigerians suffer the most and where we play, especially the most vulnerable Nigerians, that at this point in time, let's take away taxes from these areas so that they're able to find their feet. And then increase taxes on companies, organizations, organizations, So it's almost like taxing the rich to fund the poor. It's sort of Robin Hood
You got it perfectly. He is very clear on that, and that is exactly what it means.
Yes.
It's a little bit of a subsidy for now.
Absolutely. So it's not going to be sustained, yes. So it's important, and I do believe it's a welcome development. You recall that he's had to sit with the committee over the last few months to evaluate the current tax architecture of Nigeria and find the best solution. I quite agree with him on that end.
And I think that's what the government wants to do. This administration wants to do.
Yes.
Just a little bit of a relief for Nigerians.
For Nigerians. Yes. So let me put it out. It's a relief for the most vulnerable people on certain items that people spend a lot of money on and takes a huge chunk of their wages. Now, going back to what Mr. Bill Gates said, yes, absolutely. I think we've had this conversation many times that we need to widen the tax net. Let me not be the enemy here. I'm not saying increase taxes, and I don't think that's what he's saying, so we don't misrepresent him. It's that the people who ought to be paying taxes are not paying taxes. But I don't think that's the only challenge we have as a nation. Last year, FIRS submitted a 12.3 trillion naira tax. That's how much Nigerians paid in the last year. And they're looking to improve or increase that to 19 trillion naira this year. What they've said is that, by strengthening their processes, ensuring that more people are paying, they are able to show up revenue. Do we need revenue? Do we need revenue? Absolutely, we need revenue. But what should be done is that Nigerians must see clearly the benefits of paying taxes. The reason why it's a social contract. If I'm going to pay taxes, let me see that the money that I'm paying is going to be used for the social good of Nigerians. Let's build infrastructure with our taxes. Let's build hospitals with our taxes. Don't let me hear that taxpayers' money is going to be used to fund a 21 billion naira house for the vice president. Don't let me hear that in light of prevailing economic circumstances, my tax is going to be used to fund trips and healthcare abroad and pay salaries of lawmakers where a lot of Nigerians are suffering. That's what a lot of people protest about. So if you're going to encourage more tax collection, and he said it well, put it into education, put it into health, I hope that's where the money will go to. But in terms of widening the tax net, a lot of people who ought to be paying taxes are not paying taxes in Nigeria. They should find them out and increase our taxes.
Yeah, very quickly, the irony is not lost on me that we're lacking synergy here. So in one breath, here's somebody coming with policies that in essence look fantastic on paper. Let's take away taxes that burden those who are most vulnerable and so forth. But then we're increasing the fuel price, which wipes away all the benefits of any other thing that we've done, right? Inflation is going to skyrocket. Everything else is going to increase in price. So synergy, for me, my takeaway is synergy, is that one arm of government can't be moving left while the other is pulling to the right, and then we're somehow hoping that something is going to happen, some sort of equilibrium is going to happen in the middle. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. I know this particular administration has taken a certain position with regards to FEC meetings and how they're not held as regularly as they used to be. But possibly this might be a signal that we need to go back to regular FEC meetings so that we can start to see a little bit more synergy, because it seems we were pulling in a lot of different directions, and something's going to give at some point.
Definitely. Very well said, team. But let's move on to the next story. The Joint Committee on Electoral Matters has proposed reducing the salaries of legislators and executive members by 30% and 40%, respectively. This was proposed during an interactive session with the judiciary and political parties, led by the chairman of the Senate Committee on Electoral Matters, Senator Sharafuddin Ali, on the National Assembly review and amendment of the Electoral Act 2022. According to them, legislators' salaries should be reduced by 30%, while executive salaries should be reduced by 40% to cut costs. During the session, political parties also proposed that all elections, presidential, National Assembly, governorship, and state houses of assembly be conducted in a single day, asserting that the current staggered system of elections is not cost-effective. While Nigerians have been reacting to it, the first tweet there reads, "Allowances, not salary." If you say salary, they will tell you it's only 1 million a month. Specify allowances, but there's no need to slash them. Let them keep piling them up in the banks. When the time is right, all former governors, senators, presidents, House of Rep members will have their accounts seized and their assets frozen and taken over by the state. So let them keep saving it for us. The next tweet there reads, it's a ridiculous idea. Prevent them from consuming constituency allowance, humongous allowance, and conniving with contractors to steal funds for contract work not done or done well is far more important, because how much is their salaries that they even want to cut it? And the last tweet there reads, to reduce the governance cost in federal and states with 774 local government areas, slash of legislators and executive salaries by 40% or above is necessary to save the Nigerian economy. So we're looking at, I think everybody is just trying to see how they can cut their coat according to their size. What are your thoughts about this, the slash in itself and the push for conducting all of these elections in one single day? How realistic is that?
I don't know. I just think some of these things are cosmetic. It's just for optics' sake. You know, say the right things, make the right moves. The people have said you well. The first tweet said you perfectly. Leave your salary. It's the allowances and the largesse. But I do believe, and part of that is even going back to the Rosanye report and some of the recommendations to help to cut waste, cut spending in government, especially when we're talking about how to save cost at this time. I think it's a good gesture. I don't think it's enough, to be quite honest. I don't think it's about the salaries alone. It's also about the waste, the allowances, the prayers in emails that we're talking about. Those are the things that Nigerians really want to see. I also would propose at this point that perhaps we should consider a part-time working structure for the National Assembly. We've talked about this a number of times because, I mean, they work almost part-time. They're always on recess. Any small thing they do, they sit for a few weeks and then they go on recess. So we've talked about that as well, so that it also takes away the attraction of public service, and then we can get only those who truly want to serve run for elections, you know, at this level. So well said, but I think a lot of it is cosmetic. We wonder, it's the real thing we're talking about, the real cuts.
And with the cocktail of cutting costs, the Rosanye report is very good. It's been on the table, and I look at a few African countries that have been trying to do a couple of things recently. Kenya just introduced a new system that will help every official travel, the processes from approval to getting whatever, how much you get as SDA code, come through a certain app, and that can be monitored and the cut cost. Then you've got one other country, I'm not sure whether it's Tanzania, which country in East or Southern African corridor. I said, look, all type of SUVs used by all government officials are withdrawn. And they just go for a lower grade of vehicles that they should be used. Now you can use an SUV of 250, 350 million, or you can use an SUV of 30 million naira. So why use a 350 million naira SUV when the same government official could use one for 50 million? So you can just look at these allowances as part of them. Then you talk about the whole intra-country allowances. And this should go not just at the federal level. And this is where the problem is. We're bleeding so much across 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. The new FCT chief came in, and of course, there's all over social media, the new type of SUV that was bought to say a welcome for him in Abuja. All of this needs to be looked into. All this needs to go all the way down to the bottom, which is the local government of municipalities, as the saying goes. They talk about tea and coffee, and the toilet papers and everything in the National Assembly. And across the 36 states of assemblies, governors live like emperors. They look at the chairs they sit on when you do interviews and you see them. You see some of them looks like they're much better than the ones that you have in the first class of some of the best airlines in the world. Some state governors seats that the governors sit on, by the way. Sometimes they just talking on television and I'm keeping my eyes on the seat and I say, Bolson, how much does this seat cost? Next time you have a state governor in Nigeria on television, just watch the seat and the emblem on it and the cost of designing that seat is enough to give to some SMEs in that state.
I just have one sentence. My one sentence is, can we begin with transparency? Can we first know how much the salaries and allowances are? It's even going too far for us to say we're slashing them. First, let's know how much we're actually spending. Let's just begin there, right? And then let's move the conversation forward from there. It's not lost on me, the irony that it's a committee that's proposing. And we know that committees are the other way that, money is made from juicy committees. Committee without money.
committee to cut expenses, we also need expenses.
Go on, Shades, and I know you have another story.
Let's take our final story today on what's trending. The Lagos Territorial Office of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has received 167 Nigerians repatriated from Libya. The returnees who arrived at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos yesterday around 3:51 p.m. comprise of 77 males, 69 females, 10 children, and 11 infants. NEMA's efforts to assist the returnees are underway, ensuring their safe integration back into the Nigerian society. I know yesterday was lots of good news, today lots of but we're ending what's trending today with good news. 167 of our fellow compatriots are back in the country.
Well, you know, what awaits them? So it is good news that they're back home safely, but the question is, what awaits them? What are we building here? What's the environment that we're creating to stop our young people from going through such harrowing, crazy experiences in search of a better life? I know our time is fast spent, but my question is, what are they coming home to? What are we giving them to come home to?
Yeah, welcome to full scarcity and higher prices.
Oh my God.
So that's a red carpet. Not this one in the studios, and I'm sure everybody can see that. That's not the kind of red carpet.
Well, it's bittersweet news, and International Organization of Migration has done a study on this, just to look at, number one, the reason why people flee to these countries. Libya in itself has not had a stable economic government. We talked about the fightings earlier on during business segment. So when people choose to leave a stable democracy of about 24 years to go to an unstable country, at least in that regard, then it begs for questioning. Then number two is the rehabilitation of these people. Remember, you asked a fantastic question, what are they coming back to? Do we have a plan for them? But also more than that is that we still have a few more Nigerians who are stranded there. And kudos to NIDCOM and all the agencies who work to ensuring the safe repatriation of our citizens. But we're hoping that when they come back there, so I don't know, even with that we are here, we are looking for palliatives and, just some, okay, let me say, people hate the word palliatives, we're looking for some form of hope and just assurance that things will be better. So welcome back home, guys. Come and join us.
Yeah.
That's all I have for you on what's trending. Tomorrow we're going to be really dissecting Justice for Christina, a story that we're currently following here on Arise News.